Hi to everyone, I'm Fabrizio Degni, an Italian researcher in ethics and governance. Today, I wanna talk about ethics in the afterlife. It's the study I did because what I discovered, there is a huge discrepancy between the human memories and the one we are now digitalizing. For that, you will see I have arranged a new framework for trying to define the way we should, in an ethical, responsible way, um take care of the memories of those who are not anymore with us. As AI technologies become increasingly sophisticated, we are witness the emergence of the digital life simulation that challenge our traditional understanding of mortality, grief, and the human identity. This interdisciplinary analysis examines not just the technical possibilities, but the profound psychological, ethical, and cultural implications of these emergency technologies. The convergence. We begin here from this point, from the moment when, for the first time in the history of the universe, matter began the member itself. We are not just talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about intelligence, period. The kind of emerged from body, from emotion, from the pain of the existing. The radiant point presents the birth of the conscious, not just like a computation, but as a lived experience. This is exactly what I was referring to for memory. We are not just talking about a database, it's a living ecosystem, a texture where every recollection carry with the heartbeat and at the moment. The scent of the skin of those we loved, the weight of the world of our shoulders. Our memories are not files, they are just like ghosts that inhabit with us. Each connection, and this is where the straight my research, in this golden tree pulls like the worm of the human experience, irreducible to mere data point. Look, for example, at these faces. This is what we should and we cannot ever try to integrate with the digital memories. The warriors, for example, we know he will soon die, or the lovers, they discover the eternal life, or the main people contemplating the infinite. The leader will bear the weight of the people. That units are moments, are not information. They are stuff with every time transform when we think about that. Human memories don't archive, they transform. And every time we remember, we become something different. This is what we distinguish human consciousness from a simulation we may create. This is instead what we are trying to do with the digital memory. Is perfect, is cold, is infinite. The cloud, we preserve everything and forget nothing. But here is the fundamental question. We should keep awake at night. If the machine remember everything and we forget everything, who is more human? The machine or ourselves? What you see here, floppy disk, screen, microphone, are symbols try to externalize the memory. to make the permanent what instead is a continuous transformation. And this is the blue circuits are what we are trying to build with the current technology. But we don't process, we just suffer our memories. We carry them in our bodies like invisible scars. Every memory is a decision about who we want to become. And this is something with the current technology we cannot achieve. The real revolution is not in this way to try to teach the machine to think like us, but just to remember we are the central of the revolution and the innovation, and the machine should support us to become and see a future. Let's begin with the psychological foundation of my research. The research consistently show can the afterlife belief serve as psychological buffers against death anxiety, particularly among older adults. However, the cultural context matter enormously. While Western Christian samples show predominantly positive association between afterlife belief and well-being, my analysis of the Jordan Muslim revealed that the certain afterlife belief actually correlated with increased anxiety. This highlights the critical importance of the cultural sensitivity when developing AI afterlife technologies. The terror management theory suggests the cultural worldview, including afterlife belief, providing psychological protection by offering symbolic immortality when we confront our mortality. The AI simulation add a new dimension to this potentially offering more tangible form of continued presence. The continuum bounds theories instead revolutionize our understanding of healthy grief processing. Rather than requiring momentum to let go, the research shows that maintaining inner connection to the disease often represents healthy adjustment. The digital afterlife technologies provide unprecedented new avenue for continuing these bonds though with qualitative difference from traditional memory practices. Crucially, individual attachment styles significantly influence how people respond to the digital representation. Securely attached individuals may benefit from this technology as traditional objects that foster healthy grief processing. However, those with anxious attachment style risk developing unhealthy dependency on digital simulation and potentially complicating rather than supporting grief resolution. The interactive nature of the AI simulation introduces this psychological dynamic that differ markedly from the static memory content. This brings us to one of the most concerned findings. Complicated grief affect almost 7% of the individual, characterized by several prolonged disruptive and normal functioning. Highly realistic, the AI interaction with the disease individually can exacerbate complicated grief by reinforcing denial behaviors and preventing the natural acceptance of death requires. However, the picture isn't entirely negative. Mindfully designed the application could potentially support grief resolution, through structured emotional expression, and distinct processing. The key challenge lies in distinguish therapeutic from harmful application, and we see significantly general difference in how people respond to these technologies, largely driven by varying level of digital literacy and from with AI interaction. From the technical perspective, instead, the modern AI afterlife simulation rely primarily on the large language models trained on personal data to recreate speaking pattern and thought process. This system analyzes vast amount of textual data from social media posts to personal writing to build statistical models on knowledge base, linguist pattern and expresses truth. The technical infrastructure required are substantial. Comprehensive data collection systems, secure long-term storage resolution, sophisticated preprocessing capabilities, and natural interaction interface. However, we must be clear about current limitation, and it is something we see before when I did the comparison between the human memory and the digital memory. Despite the remarkable advancement, the current AI system fundamentally lack episodic memory, autobiographic awareness, and the capacity to develop new emotion. I don't want to touch also the aspect related to the bias because it's something inherent in the language model. Qualitative 10 define authentic human identity. They remain sophisticated pattern matching algorithm rather than conscious identities. The market, of course, for the digital afterlife services is lively evolving because it's a business in four main categories. The memorial storytelling platform like Herald, AI focus on preserving structured autobiographic narrative, true life interview, emphasizing retention over replication. Chatbot-based personalities recreation, for example, the one well-known like Replica, established technical foundation for post-human simulation, potentially serving as base of brief, focused intervention. AR/VR emotional environment, including a company like the now discontinued Project Elysium, attempt to create immersive space for interaction with visual and auditory representation. And finally, scheduled messages delivered services like Dead Social focus on the predetermined content distribution rather than dynamic interaction. Each approach represents distinct benefit and risk for psychological well-being. And here we are where is my domain, the ethical implication. The ethical framework we propose rests on five fundamental pillars. First, informed consent must be explicit and comprehensive, being beyond the simple opt-in or opt-out to ensure genuine understanding of future technological application. Second, transparency. Require clear disclosure of AI natural limitation. User must be aware of what they will never receive, interacting with the AI rather than the genuine consciousness. The privacy protection become complex when dealing with the posthumous data, especially considering the third part mentioned in the personal communications. Psychological safeguards demand careful screening and ongoing support for vulnerable users. And finally, cultural sensitive require acknowledge the diversity of how different cultures approach death and memorization. The challenge in this case is the current privacy framework inadequate and address this complexity posthumous data use, especially when the AI is involved and we have not the governance of the AI is developing as in the current age. From my research, there is a dramatic variation in the religions and cultural receptivity of the AI afterlife technologies. For example, the perspectives show, I guess, acceptance view of this technology as natural extension of human enhancement and technology preservation. For the Buddhist, Hindi, and Jewish, the traditional show moderate compatibility, often depending on specific interpretation and implementation. Islamic perspective tend toward lower acceptance due to concern about interfering with divine with the nature of the death process. Conservative Christian tradition often view technical simulation as inappropriate. Intervention is sacred tradition. However, we must be note these are broad generalization and there is significant variant according to each tradition. Cultural variation in the dead ritual strongly influence receptivity. Cultural within established ancestor venerating practice may find the digital memorization more congruent with existing belief, while others may perceive technological and disruptive sacred process. Here you can see the technical architecture I took to develop my framework. The diagram illustrates the complex technical infrastructure required for conclusive digital afterlife life simulation. The data collection layer must gather information from multiple sources where respectively pricely constrained. The processing layer handles sophisticated analysis required to extract personality pattern and knowledge structure. The AI engine layer presents the core challenge, balancing accuracy with ethical constraint, while maintaining temporal modeling and maintaining appropriate boundaries. The user interact layer must navigate the delicate balance between providing meaningful interaction with the clear communication and AI limitation. With this architecture, security, privacy, and ethical framework must be integrated together to increase the level of security and to keep the people aware with the system they are interacted with. I have developed also a matrix risk assessment and it's detailed better in the paper, but there are 10 primary categories related to the concern, and the guest severity most likely risk included complicated grief scenario and commercial exploitation of vulnerable users. The lower probability but still significant concern include the first memory formation and long-term technology obsolescence. The metrics provide the framework for prioritizing risk mitigation strategies and developing appropriate safeguards. This is the framework where there are psychological, ethical, technological, and cultural consideration all intersected together. No single disciplinary perspective adequately address the multifaceted challenging of this technology present. Effective governance requires coordination across mental health implications, informed consent mechanism, and cultural values integration, and technical capabilities development. The framework emphasizes the successful implementation required simulation attending to all the four domains rather than the sequential consideration. This integration approach ensures the technical capabilities align with psychological well-being, ethical requirements, and cultural sensitivities. Inside the paper, I have developed in detail the research agenda, where you can find in a breakdown of each one of the categories we defined before, with the key issue, the potential solution, the stakeholders involved with the RISI metrics, and the research gap currently I have spotted out. We are at the conclusion. Let me go back to the beginning. Thanks for your time. The artificial intelligence is forcing us to an uncomfortable question. What makes a memory real? Of course, not the precision, but the capacity to change us. It is what I shared in the beginning with the no-text slide. The no accuracy, but the emotion they carry with it. We are designing the future of the human memory, but who will protect the ghost? The research level the AI afterlife technology represent far more than technological novelty. They constitute a fundamental challenge of how we can understand the death, the brief, and the human connection. While this connection offers unprecedented possibility for maintaining bond with the deceased loved ones, They also prevent significant risk for psychological well-being, privacy, and cultural integrity. The path forward requires careful, balanced development that prioritizes human well-being over technological capabilities, respect cultural diversity, and maintain ethical integrity. I would say the driver should be the ethical and responsible AI approach to the technology. Most importantly, we must remain vigilant that our quest preserve human connection. Beyond that, we don't lose sight of what makes the connection authentic for the human at the first place. By establish the framework you can see in detail in the paper, I'm sure it's possible to have a more strict and govern system of the problem of a regulation lack of a global scale approach. We must remember we are not just building better algorithm, we are deciding what it means to be human in the digital age. Thanks to everyone for your time.